Introduce myself. I'm Tom Mentrak. I'm a transplanted American. Just got my Canadian citizenship about a month ago. And I have a wonderful Canadian wife. That's why I'm up here. I've always been interested in hockey. I played when I was a kid. My dad was a goalie. If you could see a picture of him, his nose would prove it. I played until I was about 14. No place for me to go. I ended up playing baseball, then came back to it and played when I was in my late 20s and 30s. My ex-wife said, "You're getting too old to play this game. You better quit." I said, "Nah," and 2 weeks later I took a shot in the back of the head and got 30-some-odd stitches and a concussion out of it. So I ended up quitting, took up something safe, downhill skiing. Exit that wife about 16 years ago. Enter the new wife 13 years ago. She's still working. She's a chartered accountant here in Canada. She said, "I can't ski, that's tax season. Why don't you go play hockey again? You can keep up with my retired partner. He's 70. I said, okay. Dug out my old stuff. I found out the moths and rats had gotten into it. Ended up buying all new gear. Went out with these guys. And yes, I could keep up with her retired partner. But the guys like Rick Smith and no way in the world. So I ended up playing, and I still play to this day, with a team in the Kingston Leftovers Hockey League. Great time. I've developed an interest in hockey and the history of it to a certain extent, wanting to know about some of the players that I knew from Syracuse that had played there. So I found your site online, showed up at a meeting about 2 years ago, and here I am now. You guys trapped me into trying to write a book. I have never written a book in my life. My background is electrical engineering, and it doesn't fit real well, but okay. The Eastern Professional Hockey League, a lot of people never even heard of it. I'm sure there's a few people in this room who haven't heard of it, but it came about because of the demise of the Quebec Hockey League in 1959, when the Quebec Aces went to the American Hockey League. Montreal Royals tried to go to the American Hockey League. They didn't make it. At any rate, all these teams in the Northern Ontario Hockey Association and Ontario Hockey Association, the senior leagues, all were hemorrhaging. They were lots and lots of red ink. These guys just weren't making it. So when Quebec made their jump, the NHL decided they were going to put up 6, quote, professional teams. Not a mix of guys who were truck drivers in the day and played hockey at night, and but strictly professionals. So they ended up with 6 teams. Crozier Lions, Montreal Royals, Hull Canadian, Kingston Frontenacs, Sudbury Wolves, and then way up there, the Sioux Thunderbirds. That league, first year on the ice, it was a tremendous success. In the box office, Montreal, or the Crozier, folded after the first year. They moved the team to Kitchener, and they became the Kitchener Beavers. Montreal was having difficulties. The only one who really made any money was Hull. Kingston, I think, was right in there, yes or no. The others, they just survived. And it wasn't for the subsidies from the NHL teams, these guys wouldn't have made it. End of the second year, Montreal collapses. They moved that team to North Bay, a very small market. There was no way they could be a success there, but they moved it there. So now you still have 6 teams, but they're not the original 6. End of the third year, Kitchener folds, North Bay just couldn't support it, they folded. That left the Sioux, Sudbury, Hull, and Kingston. And nobody wanted to travel to the Sioux. I mean, from Kingston, it was 3 train rides. Kingston, Montreal, or Kingston, Toronto, Toronto, Sudbury, Sudbury to Sioux. It was a nightmare as far as scheduling goes. So Tommy Ivan, who is the GM of Blackhawks, decided to move the team to Syracuse. And they announced it in August of 1962. There was no local ownership in Syracuse. They couldn't get the newspapers to buy into the fact that this was a professional team. They had an amateur bunch there that got a hell of a lot more press. And it was doomed right from day one. I went to 3 of those games. I went to the exhibition game against the Blackhawks. Syracuse lost 7-2. Went to second game in November with the Frontenacs. They had a 5,500 seat arena and 450 people. Went to a game in December against Sudbury, 250 people. Well, obviously, the red ink just buried this team. And they moved the team on New Year's Day, 1963, to St. Louis. Now, they were already playing an interlocking schedule with the International League, you know, the Minneapolis, Omaha, Port Huron. So they would play home and home series with those guys. But moving the team to St. Louis, it kind of fit in with that structure. And in first three games of St. Louis, they outdrew the 19 games they already played in Syracuse. Now you know why I'm calling this the greatest team nobody ever saw. Nobody came to the games. But why the greatest teams? Let me just get a couple pages here. Their goalie, Roger Crozier. Probably heard of him. Murray Hall was a wing, left wing. Murray played in the NHL, played in the WHA with the Hows down in Houston. Got 2 of those Apro Cups. Hack Lalonde played in the NHL. Duker Harris played in the NHL. Alain Boom Boom Caron, a little slow of foot, but he had a hell of a shot. He played in the NHL and the WHA. Nick Polano, NHL. A guy by the name of Milan Marchetta, and where's the gentleman who I just had the photographs? There. In your collection of the 1967 Leafs, see if you can find me Milan Marchetta. He played 3 games with the Leafs. All of them in the Stanley Cup. He's on the freaking cup. Oh, and they had a big, tall, skinny center by the name of Esposito on the team, too. So I took an interest in this. I said, wow, this poor Syracuse team was so good. On paper, just had all the potential in the world and just didn't go anywhere. So I decided to start investigating it. And I found out this, that, and another thing about the team. Say, Gus Kyle was the coach. For some reason or other, the team just never gelled around. So I said, well, suppose I interview some of the players. And I found out about half the players had passed away. I interviewed Pete Ford. He never made the show. And Pete told me all kinds of great stories about, human interest stories about what happened in Syracuse when they were down there, who he was building with, and so on and so forth. So I got that all documented now. Then I interviewed another guy, and I got his stuff documented now. And I happened to be in Florida last year playing in the USA National Over 70 tournament. And I had a few days. We arrived Easter Sunday, and there was a game on, and I'm watching the game. And on XM radio, this Phil Esposito. So I'm dialing, trying to get through. No way you can get through, right? So I look it up on the website, and on page 4 or 5, down in one little corner, there's an address. I presumed it was the studio. I said, well, in a day or so we'll go check it out. So next day went to my mom's for Easter it was Easter Monday, did her Easter dinner. Tuesday took off, and it was about 20 minutes from the hotel. Drive down the street in Tampa, get to the corner, make a right turn, and it goes from commercial to residential. I get into the second block, and this isn't the studio. We pull up in front of the house. It's a modest little white house, nice garden. Guy working in the driveway on the chop saw from the kitchen place. You don't suppose this is Phil's house? I said, no. Well, let's ask the guy. Do you know, tell me who lives here? And the guy goes, no habla inglés. So I said, well, I think I should go out and find out what the hell's going on. They said, Phil's house, he's not going to talk to me. And my wife says to me, you haven't got the wherewithal, other words, to go up and knock on the door. Well, I go up, bang, bang, bang. Big Phil answers the door. And I'm going, hello. And I explained to him what I was doing. I was trying to research his playing time in Syracuse, which is only 3 months. I mean, everybody's written everything about Phil, but I haven't found one reasonable thing about his little career in Syracuse. So I sat down with him for about 25, 30 minutes. Found out we drank in the same bars together, probably had a beer together. At that time, I would have never known it. And he couldn't even remember who the hell he was building it with. So right now, I've got appointments with a couple of the other players who are still alive. Murray Hall, for one, who lives just down in Mississauga. But I'm having trouble, and that's the reason I'm up here. I'm looking for pictures. That's the reason I asked if that was all National League or was there some minor leagues. Pictures of these guys don't exist except in the newspapers. Or at least they don't appear to exist. I've gone to the NHL to try to find records of games. Forget it. I've gone, right now I'm working with the alumni to try to locate some of the other players who are still alive. Carly Napier from the alumni she's giving me a hand as best she can. So I'm looking to you guys. Anybody got suggestions where I can find these guys? Well, there, right in the back.
I got probably 300 or 400 pictures of them. Unfortunately.
Really? Oh, that. If you got the Syracuse Braves, that's the other thing. I can't find any record of the sweaters. I think, who's the sweater guy? Who's the sweater museum?
Yeah.
I contacted you.
Yeah, do you have a complete roster?
Oh, yeah.
Can you hand one out to us afterwards?
Well, I don't have it with me, but I can have one before the close of day today.
I could give you Nick Bolano's phone number. He's a friend of mine. My fear is, and I say this very respectfully, he does have Alzheimer's, so I don't probably think, but Nick.
He lives in Detroit, right?
He lives in Detroit, yeah.
I located him in Detroit,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to.
Whether you would want to speak to his wife or his son, I don't know. But if you want his phone number, I can provide.
Oh, that'd be marvelous.
So you let me know if you want.
Absolutely marvelous. This is the kind of thing that, in order to go ahead with this project,
Yeah.
The book is going to be set up very simply. Where the league came from, a few bits about the evolution of the league to the final year, focusing on Syracuse and the players from Syracuse and where they went to from there. So that's about it.
Yeah, one of our members wrote a book about the history of hockey in Syracuse.
Right, I know him.
A fellow named Jim Mancuso.
Yes, he had 7 pages about the Braves and no pictures. Well,
A couple of programs here from the league. One that has the St. Louis Braves in it.
okay, that's after the move. Is that the CPHL or the EPHL?
EPHL.
It is the EPHL, so it'd be the spring of '63.
And there are some of the teams that are scheduled in here with, a lot of them scheduled to play, 10 times against Syracuse.
Yeah.
Other teams there, like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne Comets, yeah.
Was in the league. So it looks like teams are.
That's the interlocking schedule between the International League and the EPHL.
Yeah. But an
Well, I'd
interesting.
love to take a look at that.
Interesting lineup of the Braves here. I mean, a whole lot of Canadians. They had Bill Masterton, a whole pile of
Oh yeah, a lot of guys went through these teams.
Yeah.
And of the 590 odd guys who played in the league over the 4 years, over half of them made the big show. I mean, Gary Cheevers, Whitey Stapleton, and I can go on and on and on about these guys. It's just one right after another that actually played in the National Hockey League. Willie O'Reilly played in Kingston and Boston. So there's a huge, to me it is extremely interesting. I hope other people find it interesting when I get it.
I have this vague memory that you can confirm or deny this because you have looked at game accounts and that sort of thing, that Jack McCartan, the 1960 U.S. goalie, played goal for one of these other teams. Is that right?
I think he played for
Kingston, maybe?
Kitchener, maybe.
Kitchener. Yeah, he might Kitchener Beavers, I think. Because the 6 teams in their original 6 original teams in there, the only team of the original 6 that didn't buy into the thing was the Leafs. And don't ask me why, I don't know that yet. But every other team had more or less a franchise, like Kingston was Boston, Ottawa was obviously Canadians.
Well, he may very well have memories of games against Syracuse. I know him, and I could put you in contact.
Oh, once again, this is
We'd have to
the kind of
confirm,
thing
however,
that I'm looking
status.
at. Guys who came to Syracuse, okay, did you drink at Johnny Lamp's bar around the corner with me, or the Blue Angel, or one of those bars? I used to do a lot of that in those days. Anything else, gentlemen? Yep.
Well, I was just going to ask, my understanding, so they moved to St. Louis, they finished the year, and then the next year the league moves, or is...
The whole league collapses.
Yeah.
What happened was only 4 teams left, and it was much more convenient to use the base of the International League and turn it into the Central Professional League, which is where that whole evolved. I have several friends who did play in that CPL, but they didn't play in Syracuse.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen.